here, and today we're going to move on to another part of the body that people seem to struggle with, myself included. Once you practice it enough and you start learning to see the shapes, you get it down. But we're going to move on to feet. So I hope you practiced your hands. Excuse me. And we are going to start breaking down the foot. Okay. So the first thing about the foot is obviously we have toes, we have the foot itself, and then the ankle where it connects. Okay. So when looking at a foot, if you really look at it and break down the shapes, right? So we know it sits high. So if you start with like an elongated rhombus right here, okay, I'm going to darken that up so you guys can see that better. Okay, and then what you can do from there is you can extend that out into a separate rhombus, right? So this would be a foot that's facing directly towards us. Now if you notice it got bigger towards the bottom because it's facing us, it's closer, but this is a general shape that you can start with from the front. Okay, and then we have things like our toes, right? So I can just build in, now my big toe is going to be bigger, but I can build in this circular shape, and then every subsequent toe after that. Okay, so I can just build in these circles, and you can already see the shape of the foot as we build that out, right? So now that we have that shape, we can start looking at things like what's visible and what's not. So usually what I like to do, if you look at a foot, and you could pull up a reference of a foot if you wanted to, there's usually this slight curve from the front and it goes back, right? But we don't want to dip it too much. Okay, so we want it to stay somewhat even, so we can kind of turn it and go up with it. Now on the front side we have the ball of our foot, which from the front view is going to kind of just poke out a tad right there at the front. The rest of it just kind of curves back into what we've got already. Okay, so once you've done that, you can kind of just clean that up inside and clean up inside all of these circles as well. Okay, and then if you wanted to, you could add like a semicircle right here for the toenail. Okay, just again depending on the angle that you're putting these toes at too. So straight on, straight to the front, we're not going to see too much of the connection of the foot, right? So something we can do is you could space these two out. Sometimes people like to walk with their hand or their big toe spread, but either way, right, we can add in the shape of the toes in here. Okay, another thing we could do is you should be able to see a small portion of the heel, so that can be part of your foot there. Now usually what I do is I take this part right here, so once we kind of close off the heel of the foot and come out, you can add in that ankle shape and then come back on this side and get that other shape in there, and you can kind of leave this kind of half turn line to just give it that definition, right? So that right there, I'm just going to go ahead and refine all this just so you can see it better. That right there pretty much gives us the foundation of our foot. Okay, so that's our first foot from the front, right? Well, then you have to think, well, I can't use that same exact method from turning it from the side, right? So if I'm going for more of a side view of the foot, we still want to start with that high shape. Okay, now remember, pause the videos if you need to, but you're going to start with that high shape, but we want to kind of curve it down like that. Okay, and then we can curve down and go back with it and kind of round up. So you're kind of making a shape like this, but either way, as long as you get that curve leading to the under part of the foot, that's fine. Okay, and we know we're going to have our ankle, so usually I come down about halfway and go ahead and just make an ankle shape in there, and then right from that point we come off and curve out to make the heel of the foot. Okay, now you can kind of look at it and tell how big it needs to be if it's like super skinny. Now if you're doing a stylized character or something, then that's fine. They can have weird shaped feet. Okay, now depending again on the foot, so if this is the same foot from that side, I'd want to lead out into my big toe here. Now instead of just completing the circle, I know the rest of my toes are going to start moving back at a slight angle. So those are all my toes there. And what I can do is just erase out the inner parts of those circles. Okay? So you can kind of flatten the tops and curve it under, almost like fingers. So kind of doing like we did last week with that bean shape. And then it'll essentially give you your toe shapes in there. Okay, so again, just finding shapes that help you get what it is that you're looking for is the ultimate goal. Okay, so now that I have all that, again, you can already tell it's looking like a foot. The last step is just simply adding in the details. So I can add like an extra tail curve here, the part that curves up into the foot. And then we have the lower ball of our feet. Okay, and this is where you start making adjustments, because we don't want to just keep it completely flat. We have a slight arch, that's what we use the ball for. And then we can just take it back. And then once we get to here, we can take the heel out just a little and curve that out. So you're just making your adjustments in this stage, what looks the best. And then you can clear out certain aspects of the feet. I could probably sharpen up this ankle a little bit. Okay, so we still take the heel of the foot up there, but then we want to run that back side off there, and then here towards the front, right? We want to add like a slight arch to it and have that run up, so it looks more like a foot that way. And then we can just take the rest of it from the ankle. Okay, so we're just cleaning up and then getting rid of the back ends of all those bean shapes. And again, if you want to, you can add in the toenails if you want. I'm not going to on this one, just it looks enough like a foot without it. But if you're going for realism, that's when you want to start adding in those details, right? So again, basic foot is 100% perfect, things like that. No, but it looks like a foot. Okay, so unless your foot that you're drawing is the main focus of whatever it is you're drawing, it doesn't have to be 100% like boom, looks like a foot. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is start. This is just basic, so if you just want to draw characters with their foot facing forward, just make sure you have the big toes on this side, you're drawing everything the opposite direction. So I would highly suggest you practice going both sides of the feet. And like I said, it's 100% okay to look up an image of a foot. Okay, so next thing we're going to talk about is like dynamic views of it, right? So let's say a person's like running away from your scene and you see the foot raising off the ground, right? So the heel of your foot is basically this ovular shape, almost a circle, right? So that's going to represent the heel. Again, break it down into shapes, okay? So we're going to kind of have a curved one side. So like if the side that your toe is on is the side that you're going to curve in, the other side is just going to follow the shape of that foot down. this side, so it's just following the side of the heel over there. Okay. Now again, we have the ball of our foot down here, but if you really break it down, there's two muscles in there that kind of separate, so we can kind of have more of an ovular shape on this side here. Okay. And then what you can do is just erase out that middle section there, and then come over here to the heel, and you can erase that out on that side. Okay. Now we're going to see a little bit of that pinky toe right in there, but we want to erase a little bit of that line coming off the bottom. Okay. So same thing here. I want to capture that arch from the foot. I can erase out this line, and we can come right out from under that arch and curve that up into our other curved line here. Okay. Then of course we can move up to here to our foot shape. Now if you notice, I keep erasing lines out because we don't want it to be a defined shape when we're done. So like I'll erase the top out from this heel and just leave a line like that. Okay, we can keep what we have here. Right, and just have that curve up. And then we can go from the side right here where we left off. We can just take that out into that ankle shape, and then come over to our heel and just do the other side of it. Okay, so now it looks like we have a foot, and you can add in a few extra lines just to give it more of that foot shape. So this would be a foot turned away, but they're standing up on their toes. Okay. So once you've done that, you can explore other things as well. We could do the same shape, right? We could do it if they were standing on their toes in the front. So we're going to have where we kind of went, straight curve. It's going to bend the opposite way. So we want to kind of curve out a line. Again, the side that the toe is on is going to get the big curve. Okay, and then we could take that across and then just go straight up with that and close that off. So think of it like one side of a rectangle is rounded. Okay, now we want it to kind of curve out into our first toe, and then from there we just draw in the subsequent toes that come after. Okay. Now the key thing with this is when they're standing on the ball of your foot, you're really pronounced on that ball and that heel. So we can take it back, go ahead and make a curve, and we can take that heel back and curve that into this point here. So now that we have that, just to make it look a little bit more noticeable, we can get rid of that old line that's in there, and we can keep this, right? And then we want to come out and make that heel shape, and you can just connect it like that. Okay, and then what you'll do is just erase these two lines out. So when you're looking up pictures of feet, just be sure that you start looking for those shapes that you're seeing and breaking it down. And right here we're just going to continue up with our foot. Okay, so I can erase out the insides of those toes. And start drawing in rest of those shapes for that. Okay, again, you can come in here and erase out the tops of those lines and leave them empty. You could come in and put, toenail shape in there if you wanted to, just to really get people to know that that's a foot. Okay, so now we've done the same thing we've done up here on the side. So you would do the same thing from a side view, just really get that S shape in there, just really breaking down the shapes of the feet. Okay, so other things you could do to really help with like the if you really wanted to get dynamic for some reason, we could still build that kind of rhombus shape out. Like that. Okay, and then I could turn out the other one and bring that over. But like this would be somebody who's like, I don't know, maybe they're stretching their feet and they kind of putting a little spread to their toes. So you could put a shape of the big toe over here and then put like a curve, right, where they're spacing that toe out. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up this inside here and here. Okay, so that'd be like my first toe, the big toe. Right, so we're doing the foot from the other direction. Okay, and much like we did with the fingers, I'm going to put that into a position first with the tips of the toes, and then maybe he's really sprawling that last toe out and really spreading it. Okay, so then from there, of course I could put a little toenail right inside of there, and then I have that space in here. But then what I want to focus on is the shape of that toe that's going back, right? So I want to put the shape of the toe almost like the finger parts of the toe. Okay, so I can come in here and refine those now. You could put more nails on them as I go out. Okay, so see where we have that spread out. But the other thing I want to focus on is if you wanted it more dynamic, we can see more of the foot, right? So we could get the ball underneath there, the ball of the foot. So that'd be like the underside. Okay, and then same thing here. My toe is spread out, so I want to make sure I kind of really get the ball of that side of that foot. Okay, and then I have that curve that goes back towards the heel. And then on this side, because that pinky toe's out a little bit, I'm going to put a slight curve there. And then run that foot up and give it a slight curve up there at the top. So we can clean that up, right? And then just come in here and add that ankle shape. Over here on this side, we have the heel kind of coming back right at the ankle. And then we have our foot kind of spread out there at the front, okay? Basically the point of all this is just eventually once you see the shapes, you can just, and I'm just going to sketch this, we're not going to do like a full out, I'm just kind of showing it. But once you start seeing the shapes of things and how they're meant to be on the foot, I mean, you can draw, like this would be like a foot kicking out towards, someone's face. And you don't have to break the shapes down too much anymore. you can start seeing things and getting more dynamic angles and stuff, okay? So what I want you to do this week is I want you to take 15, even 30 minutes to really just look up your own feet, take some pictures of your feet, maybe go on the internet, look up some feet, but really start breaking down the shapes and drawing. The more you practice, the better you're going to get. You can't just do this video once and think you've mastered it, okay? So just make sure you do the homework. Other than that, I hope you learned something. I hope you had fun. And until next time, keep sketching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.